We are going to be okay. Famous last words, maybe, of the last episode that just dropped.
Yeah, Carol seems to be someone that has a plan in motion for a while. It makes me wonder if she had a plan with Floyd and maybe it didn't work out, and that's why he's no longer with us. So, yeah.
It was not okay for Floyd in this sense. Well, welcome, everybody. This is DTF St. Louis, the unofficial after show. I am Lauren Trager, the chief investigative reporter for First Alert 4 here in St. Louis.
And I am Elliott, the film critic here in St. Louis, here to talk about this third episode.
And it was another doozy, man. Another one.
It kind of pulled at the heartstrings at points. It still has that kind of quirkiness to it, but this is starting to get a little bit more of a internal deep dive into these people. So I'm hooked. I'm still hooked.
Yeah, it did get kind of sweeter, I guess, in some ways.
Yeah.
But do you feel like there's been twists and turns? It almost is like every single episode, do you feel like is giving us another little snippet of something, peeling another layer of the onion?
There's a mysterious key that we're still trying to figure out what's going on there. There's the Carol of it all in regards to her motives, and something about Richard. You know, he's in therapy. We don't know what's going on there. And there's the medical situation about Floyd that was very much a mystery. So yeah, there's a lot of they drop these little hints to let us know that there's a bigger picture at play.
Okay, so I want to ask you about this because, of course, on our show, the F stands for facts.
Yes.
We keep saying that. On this show, it stands for something else in the app. And I do think these were some of the funniest intimacy scenes that we've gotten so far because, as we know, sex can sometimes be awkward or funny or strange.
Right.
What do you make of what's going on there?
Yeah, Clark has some interesting dreams, as he calls them.
Yes, he does.
Fantasies in this case. Yeah, there seems to be something about being controlled. We talked about it in episode 1 that he seems to be a guy that seems to have a pretty good grip on how people perceive him. But then when he's with Carol, he's kind of lets his hair down, lets his his freedoms come out to play, right, or his urges or whatnot. So it was really interesting to kind of see that dynamic and how there's this tape she listens to that kind of says, work with people, but get what you want, come first and all that. So it's an interesting dynamic of seeing him kind of living out his fantasies, but at the same time, she's cooperating with this, but there's still some agenda that she has. But again, going back to Clark's dreams coming true, it was, as you mentioned, quite interesting to see. You learn something new every day.
I mean, it just was kind of comic to me.
Yeah.
Just kind of funny there. But do you think she is really just using him for financial support then? Is that what's in it for her, is she's got a plan to make it out of her situation?
That seems to be what this episode alluded to from the Jamba Juice situation. If you look at her bank statement, she was there at Jamba Juice for like 4 hours. That's dedication. So it's premeditated per se. And then to see her, the way she talks to Floyd too is almost like she's like a teenage girl, where she's just like using these weird, like so serious, and like the way she phrases her words, she seems to be like in a mindset of she wants him to think that she's not as intelligent or not as calculating things as it may seems to be. So Carol is really working behind the scenes. She seems to be like the mastermind behind manipulating people to think that she's one thing, but she's really a lot more intelligent and maybe more conniving than looks appear.
Yeah, I noticed that too. The way she talks is just so weird. She says for serious and no way Jose and a lot of wows, That's interesting. And then I think we find out in this episode too that everyone rides that bike. Everybody's riding that bike.
Yeah.
Floyd's riding it, Carol's riding it, everybody but Clark's wife is riding it.
Yeah, which I'm still kind of curious. I'm hoping that there's something with the wife, because we haven't really got anything besides her reaction to her husband being arrested. So I hope that there is more to explore with that character. But yeah, you're so right. I kind of want to get a bike like that and just kind of experience the thrills of being, in control and being more visible, as Clark said.
There you go. It's good for your health, as they say. It's healthy for you. I don't know about all that Jamba Juice, though. That seems like that would not be good for your health to drink that 4 many go-getters in a row.
That doesn't look like a good lunch for someone to have.
So I know we talked last time about Modern Love. I'm not even sure we know his actual name at this point.
Christopher or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Roberts.
But we learned so much more about this interaction, this breakfast.
Yeah.
What was your takeaway from that?
Well, first off, going back to comedy, I thought it was hilarious that Floyd thought that it was a female in the photo, but it was David Bowie. It was just, that whole interaction was funny. But it just goes to show that Floyd, even in an awkward situation, tries to make people this episode really put an emphasis on like the whole idea of like a people pleaser. And sometimes when you fill other people's cups, you sometimes leave yourself empty. Or in this case, you don't end up surviving because you give so much up to yourself. But yeah, I thought that interaction was really unique and really from Modern Love, speaking about his experience being younger and eventually kind of coming into his own. And I think Floyd kind of took something out of that conversation in regards to being who you are, being your true authentic self, which a lot of these characters so far haven't been their authentic self. So I think there is like maybe not a romance that Floyd sees in his relationship, but something like I can appreciate someone that knows who they are.
Yeah, and it's again, he's kind of, is he relating it to himself and also to Richard? Like he sees so much of himself in Richard, and he's also trying to figure out Richard and how to be the best parent for him, and that story seems to resonate both ways for these two characters. 100%.
I mean, we've seen more of Floyd being a father to Richard than we've seen, Carol being a mother to him. So I really, those moments to me were really sweet, really tender, and it makes you feel bad for Richard because I seem like he seemed to really enjoy after that conversation that him and Floyd had. And unfortunately, he's no longer with him. So I wonder how that plays into Richard's mind about losing maybe another father, because we don't know where his father is in his life right now. So I really like that scene.
Yeah, I do too. And I actually want to take a look at one of those scenes right now because I want to get your film critic expertise on the way this was shot. So watch for that carefully. Let's take a look.
I want to show you this.
All right, so this just really struck me. I watched it a couple times because I was just like, I always want to see, I like how people put together the art, you know? So when you see this, how did they shoot that?
Movie magic. It's all magic. No, I think it's just a really quick, concise edit that we just didn't catch. It's so quick in that a human eye couldn't pick it up. So I think as he was walking closer and closer to the bench, they probably made the cut and put the actual person. Or again, we talked off camera. I wouldn't be shocked if David Harbour maybe put some time and effort. We saw the dance moves. He is an Avenger. He is Jim Hopper. He's a man of many skills. So, that might be a secret talent that David Harbour has.
I also like sound editing, and they definitely put in the grunts and the effort that was put
that he was swinging around there.
Forth there.
Yeah.
But again, it just leads to this very sweet moment between them and kind of this developing, we're going to put therapy aside. We're going to have this time together.
Right.
That seems to be resonating with Richard. Again, I think we're still a little skeptical of what's really going on there.
Yeah, I mean, the takeaway for me besides that tender moment was, again, what is Richard going to therapy for? Just because he doesn't fit into school? That doesn't seem like, of course, people can go to therapy for anything, but there seems to be something deeper there, especially I'm thinking about the vest. Is there the reason why he wears that vest all the time? Does it mean something to him? Was it, I keep thinking about his father. Was it his father's? Did it, where's the impact there? So I'm really intrigued to learn more about Richard, and especially after this scene, because at first all we've gotten of him is just kind of a teenager that's not really too happy about having a stepdad. But now, peeling back the onions, he really appreciates these conversations with a stepdad, and it seems to be a really good relationship.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it too, but this Clark and Floyd friendship that has blossomed, and again, we know sort of the timeline of it is a little bit, he apparently started his affair with Carol before the friendship got going.
Yeah.
But then, do you think he's truly genuine when he says, I loved him? This whole line about the sunshine and water, I loved him like you love truly someone very deeply.
I am to assume, right now I have a feeling that he meant that. I think it is a genuine appreciation, a love, a bromance, if you will, because I think Carol gives him one thing, which is the fantasies, the dreams and whatnot, and he can kind of, even though he wants to be controlled, I think he likes the fact that he still has a little bit of power of like providing her with paying for bills and whatnot. But then there's that other side of him that yearns for a friendship, yearns for a brotherhood or what have you, and he gets that with Floyd. But there also might be something maybe more intimate between the two, because there are a couple scenes that kind of show that there may be more than just like a true brotherhood. There might be something, an attraction potentially.
Yeah, I kind of was wondering about your thoughts on, is it subverting, because I think a lot of the themes of this is subverting people's assumptions, as we heard from Stephen Conrad in one of our last episodes. But, how in terms of masculinity, how a conversation like that would go. Okay, so you had this encounter with a man. Okay, you kissed this man.
Yeah.
And yet the way they kind of juxtapose that with them working out together, I just thought that was just so interesting.
It really was, because, again, knowing that they are fairly new to each other, that's not a conversation you would assume that would be had between fairly new people, especially in a public setting like that, especially doing what they were doing and working out. So there's an undertone of maybe sexual tension between the two gentlemen. And also I found it funny that it was Floyd he was doing the workouts for Clark.
Yes.
But it goes back to someone being in control. I think, again, just the positioning of him being on top of Clark and being behind him. So that might speak to, again, something a little bit more of that fantasy or dream that Clark gets to live out with not only Carol, but also with Floyd.
Or maybe it's just two dudes working out, you know?
There you go.
I mean, again,
Yeah.
I just find it so interesting. And the B2B, you know, that's like their little tagline together, bring out the best. Do you have somebody who brings out the best in you, Elliott?
Yeah, my dog. I'll say my dog.
I love that.
My little puppy brings out the best in me, because sometimes those dogs can do some things you're like, what is going through your mind?
Yeah.
Like, you forget that pretty quickly.
But I think we can relate to that, because I have a couple friends where you're just like, okay, yes, you know me, you know the true me, you will be there for me no matter what, and you can kind of see that blossoming between them. Okay, so again, it's DTF St. Louis. We are St. Louisans.
Yes.
What are you kind of hearing from people on the St. Louis aspects of it? Are you getting any reaction from people that are like, I find it frustrating or I find it exciting?
I'm hearing more of, the more I talk to people about it, they're more accepting. It's like, we know it's not shot in St. Louis. We're kind of forgiving to that. But there are like some conversations I'm hearing about doing the research. Again, and I didn't even realize this because I'm not a Jamba Juice. I had Jamba Juice where I lived in Chicago, but there's no Jamba Juice in St. Louis, which was, I didn't even realize
not downtown.
that. Yeah, downtown, yeah. So like people were like, well, could have did something else differently there. And there's little tidbits and little things that like, come on, you could have switched this, that, and the other. But I feel like more people are just like, we're forgiving, but we wish that maybe more research would have been done to really kind of make it more authentic.
Well, we talked with the St. Louis Film Office, the head of the St. Louis Film Office, about why it wasn't shot here. Very fascinating interview that we're going to have coming up just a little bit later in the show. But we have a couple guests that we want to bring on as well. They are a big St. Louis name who said they were quite surprised to find out that they were actually going to be included in this show, but they're kind of leaning into it a little bit, changing things around a little bit. So we're going to hear from them coming up right after this break. Well, welcome back. We have some really special guests joining us now to talk more about this show and about a particular aspect of it. So joining me is Lori Westhoff with Purina and Sarah Javier of the APA of Missouri. And if you guys have been watching, obviously, pretty closely, you know that Carol is an employee, allegedly, in this show of a company called Purina. So we're so glad to have you on, Lori. Tell us a little bit about Purina for people who are not familiar with St. Louis or maybe pets.
Sure. Yeah, so Purina was founded in St. Louis about 125 years ago. And at that time, we were proximity to the river and the rail in the Midwest, and it was just a prime location. And our founder really built a pet care business as part of a broader business here. So we had really deep roots in the city. And now we're a global brand. You can find Purina pretty much all over the world, and we make dog and cat food and treats and litter and supplements and veterinary products. And we're one of the top in the whole world. So we are proud to be homegrown here in St. Louis, and we're a little surprised to see our logo on Carol.
Well, and it happened kind of quickly, I think, for a lot of St. Louisans. We didn't even know this show was necessarily coming out. There wasn't a lot of buzz around it, but one of the press photos pretty prominently featured Purina. So what was your reaction there? So,
yeah, I started getting blown up my text, and, I do communications at Purina, so this happens fairly often for any number of reasons. But, I was getting Instagram messages and, did we approve this? Did we sign up for this? What's our involvement? It's Jason Bateman. That's awesome. And my initial reaction was, oh, that's really cool. And then I'm like, what's the name of the show? Wait, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Wait, who gets to tell our executives what that means? So we decided ultimately to have more of a sense of humor about it. And we love St. Louis. And I think any attention that we can get for the city, if it's positive, we'll take, right?
Yeah,
I think that's a little TBD based on what I've seen on the show, but we're hoping.
I mean, hey, just to have the name and the title is something a little bit unique. We don't get that every single day. Sarah, so you guys are actually kind of leaning into this a little bit. Tell us what opportunities might be coming out of this show for you guys.
So one of the great things about the APA is we're always open to finding new ways to promote pet adoption, and in this case, fostering. So actually, Lori and another person who is on our board reached out and said, hey, there's this thing happening. What do you think about really leaning into this and making it about foster and giving it a kind of fun spin? And without any hesitation, I was like, absolutely. And we've done other fun kinds of campaigns like this to promote adoption, promote fostering, and our staff have really received it well too. Lots of people have been very excited about taking this opportunity and just really having fun with it.
So on this podcast here, we say the F stands for facts, okay? That's what our F stands for, not the other word. You're talking about the F standing for foster, to remind people, hey, this is what we can do.
Yes.
Help animals.
Correct. And we know that St. Louis loves animals. Purina loves animals, and we're really fortunate to partner with them. So this is a way that we can encourage people to help animals in our community by temporarily opening up their homes and inviting a pet in and being down to foster.
And the boredom slogan, too. I loved that. Tell us kind of how that came about.
So after Lori and team pitched it to us, we have a really phenomenal marketing company called Darling Brand Makery that does so many of our campaigns. They've helped with, we recently had one called Never Leave Home Naked. We've had Big Dog Energy. And so they are always up for a fun opportunity. And we turned this around within a week once the idea was out there, and it has just been great to launch.
That is awesome. Well, I know we'll put some information out about it too, so people can find more information. You mentioned though, Lori, like this a little element of surprise. Is this for a big brand like you guys? Is it? I don't know. Is it unusual, typical to suddenly find yourself in a situation where you're being featured in a show?
Yeah, it is pretty unusual. I mean, typically there's kind of a little bit of a protocol of like outreach and are we aligned kind of with the content of the show and things like that. That didn't really happen this time. And you know, I get it. We're from St. Louis. We're iconic even in the St. Louis skyline. And so I understand the connection to be made. And I think there's also this juxtaposition of Carol's character, right? That she's working for this company that's well known, well trusted, and then kind of has a bit of a dark side that we're learning as we kind of go into a little bit deeper into the season. So it's very interesting, but it's not, you know, we're an iconic brand, but this doesn't happen every day.
And I want to give a shout out to your employees, right? We don't have Carols at Purina.
No, I don't think Carol would pass like the phone screener at Purina.
Right.
But you know, it's interesting. There's some chatter happening at the water coolers at Purina about the show for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned even like the vest that shows up. That's not something that you guys would make publicly available necessarily.
I mean the nerd in me says like that the color of the vest is like against our brand standards. Even at the time, that was an old logo. Like there was a little tweaking that happened there with that. But it is interesting, and I think just to have a spotlight on St. Louis and hopefully invite people to like come and actually see what our city is about, which is very much maybe not what you're seeing at all on the show, but the food and the people and just the culture that we have here is pretty phenomenal. So.
As St. Louisans, do either of you want to weigh in on what you've seen so far? I know some people were kind of frustrated by like the Busch Stadium scene, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
Not so authentic necessarily in some of the location settings.
Yeah, I mean, I'll chime in, and then you can. We've got a gorgeous downtown. We've got such a historical buildings and beautiful brick, and like none of that is shown. And I think that has really like bothered me more than anything. Like, just come on, go down Market, see City Hall, see all of these beautiful buildings, get some good B-roll. Come on. That's what I wanted to see.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It seems like more could have been done to make sure that we were authentically represented, not just in the people and the corporations, but also just downtown and the communities around us.
So anything else you'll be looking for as you continue to watch, or is it kind of like, you know what, we're going to just focus on our pets and the animals?
So seeing pets, I think, would be a good
That'd be
thing.
great.
There haven't
I
been
don't think I've
animals.
tracked even one dog yet in the show.
Which is interesting because that's not authentic to
No,
Purina
I had to
either.
take my dog home after, to come here, and she's mad.
Right. So waiting to see the pets. But yeah, I'll be interested to see how it unfolds. It's a little unsettling. Is the way that I describe how
Very
I feel
unsettling.
about it right now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'll watch it till the end for sure. But it's an interesting show. I'll give it that.
Well, of course, as we've been talking about, not shot. None of it was shot here in
Right.
St. Louis, shot in Atlanta, Georgia. We're actually going to be talking with Kelly Hyatt of the St. Louis Film Office about why not and some of the challenges when it comes to attracting more of that industry here
Sure.
and how we could maybe do that more in the future. So that's coming up right after this break. But I want to thank you both so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, welcome back. Kelly Hyatt is here from the St. Louis Film Office. You are head of the St. Louis Film Office, and we are so excited to talk about this show with you, DTF St. Louis, on our show, DTF St. Louis, the unofficial after show. So welcome.
There we go. Thank
you
you.
for
Thanks so
coming on.
much.
So you actually knew a little bit about this show. We were kind of surprised. We were talking about earlier that we didn't hear a lot of buzz about it or anything until the trailer just
Yeah,
dropped.
just dropped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, wow, okay, here's this cool show set in St. Louis, Jason Bateman, David Harbour. You, however, knew a little bit about it.
I did. I kind of got scooped on it. I don't know, probably 2 months or so before they started production. I'm affiliated with a commissioners association called AFCI, and so with that, you get kind of the inside track on a couple things. So the commissioner that was kind of working on it let us know, and it was one of those things, obviously, that I was like, well, what the heck? Why aren't you filming in St. Louis?
Yeah.
But there's a myriad of reasons why productions choose to film where they do. So yes, we worked with them and made sure that anything that they wanted St. Louis specific, we made available. If they wanted some Ted Drew's cups, or something. So we knew what was going on.
And then, of course, they told you how it ends, right? Just kidding.
No,
spoilers
I
for
know
you.
nothing. I've not seen an episode. I know now at this point, everything that I know. So.
Yeah. So I guess that is a big question that comes up always. It happened with Ozark too, where it's like, okay, it's about a town, but it's not filmed there. I mean, they've been pretty clear about that. It was filmed mostly in Georgia.
Yes, Atlanta.
So is that pretty typical? I mean, in the industry where it's not filmed where it's set.
Yes, it does happen. I mean, I made a 20-year career working on a number of shows that did not get filmed, where they depicted the whole kind of Grey's Anatomy empire, obviously that takes place in Seattle, and we filmed all of that in Los Angeles. So I think it's in the 14th season
One of the longest
of
running
filming,
shows.
Los Angeles for Seattle. So it does happen all the time. I've done a number of things in Chicago that were DC. I did a whole series in Chicago that was Detroit. So yes, it happens. I guess one of the big defining factors for it is really the tax incentives. So with Ozark, for example, Missouri didn't have a state tax incentive, and there's really nothing you can do to combat that. Right. It's at the end of the day, it's money, it's dollars and cents. Now, the Ozarks in Missouri, they reap the benefits anyway. I mean, you can't go to Georgia to go to the Ozarks.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So there was a win. Obviously, the economic impact that it would have had by hiring our cast, our crew members and things like that, and the lodging and the hotel tax and all that kind of stuff we missed out on. But I think we made up for it in the long run with just the tourism aspect.
Yeah.
And we should say you worked for Shondaland Productions. You
Yes.
worked on Chicago Fire, Chicago PD.
Yes.
You know what this world is like.
Yes.
So, I mean, as they're looking at how do they make this sort of St. Louis authentic, though, and still feel like it is actually set here, like what goes into the thinking of that to be like, well, we need to kind of get some of the details right?
Right. Well, so a lot of that comes down to the production designer. So we actually filmed a movie here in August that took place in Dallas. So they shot St. Louis for Dallas, and it came down to picking the childhood home of the main character, the type of grass that was in the front yard of the home. So, I mean, you do get very detailed with that aspect, and so you want to make sure that, to the eye of somebody from there. I mean, I think we've all watched things that we're like, nah,
100%.
that's not really
Yeah. It
where
doesn't
that
feel
would
right.
be or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
You obviously with your film critic background, I'm sure that there's the continuity stuff that catches your eye. People don't like watching things with me, by the way, because I'm like, nope.
I'm an accent guy. I sometimes pick up on accent. That's not a good. I'm not from New York, but I know a lot of people from New York. Like, it's not an authentic New York accent,
or overplayed or something.
Yeah, there's it just drives me crazy. But originally from Chicago, so Ferris Bueller. Going completely the wrong way down Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They're going north one way and then south the other. It is totally wrong.
Oh, that's
it's just
so
like every
funny.
time I watch it, I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, there's little things, but it's an authentic thing. Again, I haven't seen the show, so it'll be interesting to kind of see what that looks like.
Yeah,
but I mean, I have an eye for looking at St. Louis as different places. So I would hope that whomever was the scout and whoever did the thing, did their due diligence, and they can make it St. Louis-y.
Yeah, and obviously the setting isn't everything. It's just, is it kind of rare? I mean, maybe both you guys can weigh in here on to get a name of a place in a title, but maybe that's not central to the story itself. It's sort of like it's still about these three main characters and what sort of happened. Could it have been set maybe in another Midwest town or something like that? But I mean, is it sort of like this idea that you still want it to feel authentic so that it's not in your face? Every shot doesn't have to be on the arch grounds, for example.
Yeah, and that kind of, I don't know, I feel like that's kind of been more of a trend lately. It's not the kind of bonking the viewer over the head with, this is where we are. Middle America is kind of middle America, I don't know. I've seen it a little bit more.
I mean, I always interpret it as it's almost a character within itself, even if it is maybe not entrenched in the show, but it still has a personality to it and how the characters react and move throughout the town or city, whatever the case may be. So I'm hoping, going back to the authenticity, that the show depicts St. Louis as a way of being another character to carry on within the story. So
yeah, I mean, there's things like, it's the choice of beverage. So for instance, the Dallas movie that was here, they were trying to work out a deal with AB to but they were like, well, no, they would have drank Bush beer there,
right?
Right. So
right.
I mean, it's little things like that you can really sell, the environment just by what people are acting and doing. Put some fried raviolis on the table.
You know where you're at.
Here in St.
know where
Louis.
you're
There we go. A little Emo's Pizza box or something for people who know that reference.
100%. Yeah. Brand awareness. And that's a whole nother industry.
I'm sure.
Licensing.
Where
those conversations are happening so that they get their little play too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are we doing collectively, the collective we, to see if we can bring some more of that piece of the pie to the St. Louis region, to the Midwest, to kind of get, that industry and that economy that these film productions bring?
Yeah, I mean, the movie industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. One of the things that we are fighting with right now is the overseas market. There's just really nothing that we can do to combat that. Atlanta is seeing a huge drop in their production. The Marvel, the Marvel Empire
London,
moved.
Right?
Yeah, they moved out to London, and there's a project that I was trying to get here. They're shooting in Ireland. I kind of give myself a little grace. I'm like, if they would have gone to Oklahoma, I would have been mad. But I can't compete with Ireland. So,
is that financial mostly, or is it just because there's ease of less
they
regulations?
Don't deal with all the union issues that we do. And then, healthcare. So, I mean, there's a thing where, it's like we hear about all of our productions and our crew members going over to Europe to work. That's not reciprocated, because when crew members from overseas come here, there's no health care for them because there's a private health care. So there's all sorts of different things. The labor is cheaper, but yes, so that is a big deal. Now, that is trending with kind of larger budgets. I really like to focus on the $3 to $10 million. I have my little logo or slogan is I want a Juno every quarter. So if I can make the movie Juno every quarter, we'll
Classic
be in good shape.
I love that
classic,
movie. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Little Miss Sunshine, those types of things that keeps consistency in our marketplace.
Yeah.
It keeps our people working, and it just kind of keeps the infrastructure going. So there's a number, and I feel like I'm talking a lot, so jump in whenever. There's a number of smaller businesses that have really, really thrived because of these movies coming in, and not necessarily ones that you would think about. So a catering business, for example, they were just kind of a mom and pop catering business, and as a matter of fact, they're kind of teetering on what to really do and to keep going. And a movie comes in town, and now they're making 150 meals a day, 3 times a day for an entire crew for 30 days.
Yeah, amazing.
So those types of things. And so there's a travel agent that I've been working with, and she's really just, she's leaned in on it. So she does all of the travel for productions coming in, and not only just the airplane. Now she's doing personal car services, she's doing security detail, she's doing all of these things. So the spill off into our local economy really is great.
So there is production happening.
Yes, we actually have a film going on right now. So, yeah, it's smaller. It's an independent film. They actually chose not to go with the tax incentive, and I'm not sure why, but they were able to kind of do it on their own. But yeah, that's they're actually shooting quite a bit in North St. Louis, so that's reaping some benefits over there. That's the other thing too. I mean, you end up in these areas that all of a sudden a production comes in and they're renting a church parking lot for 10 days.
Yeah.
So you're just feeding kind of this great impact into communities that
injections
that need it.
you don't always think about.
100%.
Where it's like, okay, that does make sense. Plus, I just feel like, especially in St. Louis, some of the architecture is just so unique and beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, we really kind of have this. We have a lot of cool spaces.
Yeah.
If you're a location scout and you're like, well, I like this, I like that.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. I was actually at a meeting over at Greater St. Louis yesterday, and they've got a beautiful space, and I'm looking out and you see the arch, and then you can kind of see Laclegue's Landing, and a conversation with some people, and you're like, oh, that could be New Orleans. I'm like, yeah, it's also Soho. It's New York. It's with the cobblestones so there's all different ways that we can shape shift. I mean, obviously the goal is St. Louis for St. Louis, but, I'll take a great New York movie shot here. And the cost isn't, working in these larger markets, the idea of what you're going to deal with, not only red tape, but just the savings of filming in St. Louis is great.
Going back to the indie conversation, I'm a big indie fan. I love independent filmmaking. Have you noticed a boom in the business with streaming being more of an option, where studios might be not as open to risking, financials for independent film, where streaming is now allowing the opportunities to be more?
Yeah, there's a big shift just in the sale of the product. I just got back from Sundance, where I can confidently say there was a lot of talk about St. Louis at Sundance. It was the movie that premiered there was amazing. We had a great presence. We had some sponsoring opportunities that really put us out in front of the market. So it was a buzz. It was really, really incredible. And actually, that movie is going out to South by Southwest. So
nice.
And that movie is?
It's called Chasing Summer.
Yay.
Yeah, and that movie in particular is a perfect example of the tax incentive being put in place. So, it's a 20% across the board for the tax incentive, and then you can uptick to 42%. So that extra 22% is achieved by employing veterans and employing apprentices, filming in blighted areas, having a production office in a tier 2 or 3 neighborhood. There's all different ways that you can get it. One of the biggest uptick is a 5% showing Missouri in a good light. And that's, it's objectionable. Like I always say, like if it's a horror movie, the killer can't have a Cardinals shirt on, but the guy who gets killed can.
Okay. Okay.
And I say that with grace. But anyway, we were able to work with the production for Chasing Summer. So the movie takes place in Dallas. The main character is going through some life struggles, finds herself living back at home, and it's a rom-com. It's very cute.
Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, the big kind of reveal was that this main character gets her life together, and she goes and she gets this big, amazing new job in Washington, D.C., where now she's elevated to her best self. We worked with them, and I said, well, there's an extra 5% if we can get Missouri incorporated in the story. So they shifted the entire end of the story where she gets her big, beautiful, awesome job at Washington University, and she is shown then in a very beautiful signal. So those types of things are just, that's an infusion. Between
for sure.
Something like that, and then you have Soul on Fire that really just did an amazing job. So that was like a SLU situation, SLU was brought into the mix. So there's just kind of little ways that you can work around, and
and it kind of comes full circle to this show because there's interesting topics discussed here, adult themes. There is a homicide or some kind of death that happens that we'll learn more about. Is any news good news, though? Any good press still worth it, to say at least it's drawing some awareness to St. Louis, even if maybe the characters are not, the best role models, perhaps?
I mean, I think so. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, there's, you've got Breaking Bad or something. I mean, everyone. What was that? Was that New Mexico, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, is everyone in New Mexico meth heads?
Right.
No. But it was just kind of a cool, fun thing, and it made you kind of more aware of what the topography of that environment looks like. So
yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
I mean, so to that point of Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan, all of his, he has a new show called Pluribus. He made sure that he took all of his team and brought everyone back to work there because he had such a great experience with New Mexico. So you would hope that, when you do work with a town and you have the town being an integral part of the story, that it brings eyes to that town and brings more productions to it. So I'm hoping that's the case with this show.
Yeah,
even if it's not shot here.
Yeah, that's a great point. I always say, movie sets, it's just like maybe a step above the circus with as far as the way that it works and the camaraderie and things like that. I mean, it's just a bunch of creatives thrown together that are, doing what they love to do. And so that's actually a really great point, is that, producers and directors, they get into rhythm and they like to film in the same places because they know the people, they know what they're experiencing. And I have to tell you, every single director and that have come to St. Louis, they all have been blown away, not only by our talent, but just the experience in St. Louis as a whole. Yeah. Some people had never even been to St. Louis, and they're like, holy cow, this is like a hidden gem, the music and the food and all those things. So I've just had it's really nice to hear.
And of course, we would welcome Jason Bateman, David Harbour anytime they want to come in and check us out and bring the next production here.
Yes, I know. I got a bone to pick with Jason, though. This is the second one. I mean,
well, that's
really.
the thing.
I mean, he owes us at this point, right?
We were wondering, is he kind of just so interested in Missouri? Does he want to just come move here for a little bit?
I mean, if he wants to just
him.
come and hang out with me for a week, I'm happy to show him around.
Absolutely.
I mean,